In today's video, we are going to be testing out this RTX 3080. This specific version that I have, if you guys have seen it in the videos before, is this giant Aorus GeForce RTX. It's a massive 10 gigabyte 3080. This thing absolutely is just a monster of a card. It's very, very heavy, and it also games really well. And what I like to do in this series is just take graphics cards and compare them to the most, or not maybe compare, but test them out on the most demanding games today so that you would know if you are either on that graphics card or thinking about purchasing that graphics card, what kind of performance you should expect in some of the most demanding and usually like AAA title games. Just because those games are so expensive, you really want to know if you're spending, $30, $40, up to $70 on a game, are you going to see the kind of performance you would hope for or expect? I've done a couple other episodes of this so far, and I've done a 2060, 3060 Ti, and an RX 580. Today we're doing the 3080. Also on the inverted side of this, I am going to be testing out all the GPUs on the most popular free games. So that is a series that I will be starting soon. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But in today's video, what we're gonna be doing is testing out two different PCs, because again, I always like to do things difficult for myself, but also I like to pair things together to see different results and how it might matter if you were upgrading for something or if you're going to purchase a system built around it. Where we're starting is this CPU right here, which is a Ryzen 5 3600. So a bit of an older processor, but still definitely packs a punch. And we want to see how that pairs with the 3080. And then we're going to go completely modern and pair it with a Ryzen 5 9600X. Relatively okay to a pretty strong CPU that's considered like mid-level, nice budget, like pairs well with almost everything CPU. And in today's video, we are going to be testing out 5 different games. So we're gonna go back to Arc Raiders. We'll bring that one back for you guys. We're gonna do Black Myth Wukong, Borderlands 4, Crimson Desert, and Cyberpunk. Basically, what we're gonna be doing is testing out the FPS, which is obviously an obvious given. So in between each CPU swap, so when we're done with the 3600, I will actually show you guys a chart, give you guys the high, the 1% lows, and then the average. And then at the end, when I'm done with the 9600X, we will take and compare the two just to see like if you're on older hardware, how those games are gonna play. And then if you're on newer hardware, how they'll play. And it'll just give us an idea of how the game runs. So in addition to the FPS, I will give you my anecdotal experience of like how well the game is running. With the 3080, I can't imagine we're gonna have any like challenges with like motion blur, lag, or stuttering, but who knows? I've been surprised in several of my videos so far. And we will be testing this out in 1440p. I think it's probable that this is still potentially a 4K card. I think it was on release, but I haven't tested it on 4K, so I don't know how it handles that. So we're gonna do 1440p today. And because it is still a pretty solid card, we're probably gonna try to push the graphics up a little higher, opposed to just like chasing only FPS. We're also gonna think about like the visual quality, opposed to like a 2060 or an RX 580 of does it just run the game? We're looking more of like a quality life for a 3080. So let's go ahead and test out some of those games. All right guys, so we have the 3600 loaded up, and you might be wondering what this mess is over here. Well, I ran into a couple problems. Number one, the fans for the CPU cooler up here, because I went to put the 3080 in and it didn't fit. And I'm out of thermal paste, so I had to make this CPU cooler work. So that's why we have fans up here. And then I got the 3080 in and realized that the power supply in the unit that I have there doesn't work because it's not a 8 pin. So that's where all this comes in. And then of course we needed a GPU holder. So what better method than my daughter's building blocks? Anyway, here we are in Arc Raiders. Let me show you guys the settings really quick. As I mentioned, this will be more about the quality and the, not necessarily just does it play, but like the how does it feel, how does it look? If you're purchasing a graphics card like this, is it gonna do what you are hopeful for? So we're on full screen, 1440p. Let's make sure the frame gen is off. FSR is on. So I think I'm probably just gonna default to high because this should be a high card. A 3080, so this does have 10 gigs of VRAM, but We're not even getting close to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the test here, run around, give you guys a visual description of the quality. Pretty high. We're getting, 80-ish, 90 FPS. This looks really, really solid. It's very, very smooth. So to remind you guys, I daily game on, I don't really get to game much outside of these benchmarks, but I generally play on a 9070 XT. I would say that this is not that far off as far as like the quality, kind of. I think it's so funny. That CPU cooler works so well, but it looks so goofy. Now we have something to shoot at, so I wanted to kind of get a feel for the action. Again, this is out without any frame gen on, and it's on high on 1440p. So let's go ahead and get a little bit of shooting in, see if we dip a lot. Are there two shooting at me? Oh, I'm gonna die fast. Oh yeah, I'm dead. Well, I mean, that was pretty good. It gave us a good idea. Yeah, I mean, quality-wise, though, super solid. This is a good performance. I think 3080s are maybe 350 or 400 right now. Don't quote me on that. I think that's kind of the price, so good experience. Let's go ahead and swap over to Black Myth Wukong. All right, Black Myth Wukong is loaded up here. I'm gonna try to consistently stay on high because I feel like that's where this card should sit around. We're gonna go up to 75 resolution because beyond that, it'll give me the current settings exceed. So 75, no frame gen. We can probably turn ray tracing on. Let's go with medium and up to high settings. All right, let's go ahead and start this test. So first impressions, visual quality. Wow, this looks so amazing. So I did the RX 580 video yesterday and I did Black Myth Wukong on that. And this is just like night and day difference. The quality is so good, especially since it's on 1440p, it's a bigger monitor and all that. But let's kind of get a feel for the gameplay. We are getting 70 FPS, but sometimes it does feel a little, I can't tell if it's behind or not. No, it feels pretty good. We are not getting that near that 10 gig of VRAM usage, so that's nice. That feels like it's pretty good. I mean, it looks really good. It looks smooth. I'm always just so impressed at how good Black Myth Wukong looks on like higher end cards, but you really have to be in like the right spots for it to look amazing. Like right there, it looks so good. I wonder if we could, I'm gonna stop the test here because I don't want to skew the results, but I wonder if we could go up higher and like turn on ray tracing more and what we actually can get away with on this specific card here. So let's go all the way to cinematic. I know that it's probably gonna drop our FPS, yeah, down to 40, but it does look really amazing here. And it seems like it's a relatively playable 40, so this is pretty much maxed out at 1440p. So not bad. Let's go ahead and swap over to Crimson Desert. All right, you guys, so now we have Crimson Desert loaded up. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the settings really quickly. Like I said, I wanted to keep everything on high ideally because this 3080 is still a high card, at least in my opinion. So I'll give you first impressions here. The game does look really good, and I've said this a couple times and I'll continue to say it. In daylight, this game has really high quality. There are some things where like I don't love it, and I'll get to some of those potentially, but you can see like everything kind of moving around. It has really great movement of the game. I guess I can't think of the word that I want to portray here, but we are on 1440p high. So like one of the things that I do have a qualm with is like outside of the main character, some of the characters just don't look that well developed. Like he looks incredible and his detail is amazing, but like some of the other characters are just kind of a blur of colors. Ironically, I actually recorded this once and then I went to get the chart details for it and it didn't record that. So I'm not doing it again. And I actually ate lunch in between the scenes. So this game has actually been running for like an hour now and it's still really great temperatures, surprisingly. So my room is really hot, but none of the hardware is too bad, so that's nice. Maybe it helps that I've got this disaster over here. But yeah, we're in a city. It's using a decent amount of the CPU. It's pushing the GPU pretty hard. I imagine we could potentially go higher. So this is a very playable 50-ish FPS. I've said before that this game to me at 40 to 45 feels pretty playable. Anything below that generally starts to feel pretty bad. So that feels pretty good. I think we're going to Borderlands 4 now. and we'll test that out. Borderlands 4 is now loaded up. Let's go ahead and make sure we are on high settings. That's not right. Let's make sure we're on 1440p as well. There we go. No frame gen or frame rate. Vertical sync, VSync is off. Low, let's go ahead and swap it to high. Frame gen off. Upscaling would be a DLSS. All right, let's apply all that. Hopefully it doesn't make us compile shaders because that will be the death of me. It did. Okay, so for you guys, that might have seemed like 3 seconds, but it was about 5 minutes for it to compile all those shaders. So first impressions here are, dang, this looks really high quality. Very impressive. It is pushing our CPU pretty much to the max. Our GPU is going up pretty high too. Oh, I need to record this. There we go. So sitting around 65-ish FPS. Try and shoot some stuff with a, oh, that was a little delayed. Try and shoot some things with a sniper rifle. Seems pretty responsive though. Oh, okay, there is a lag, or a stutter, a lag. All right, it's a little slow on the high here at times. It looks really good. It's usually responsive, but I'm thinking that's the CPU. That would be my guess. That's my guess, is we're kind of hitting a CPU limitation here. I mean, even in battle, we're getting up to 50 so FPS. It's hard for me to fight this guy and talk, so I apologize, guys. Feels pretty smooth though when it's not stuttering. It looks really good. So this is a very playable experience so far. I think we would probably need to upgrade our CPU though if we were going to play on this kind of game. So I imagine when we get to the 5600X, we will see quite a jump from what we are getting now to what we'll get there. That feels like enough. That's enough Borderlands 4. Pretty solid experience. You know, now it's dropped down now that we're not as intense. So maybe I just needed a little more time to let it finish. No, it's back up to 100%. We'll go ahead and call it there. We're gonna swap over to the last game on the 3600, which will be Cyberpunk. All right, our final game on the 3600, Cyberpunk. Let me show you guys the settings really quick. Oh yeah, I will start this recording to make sure we've got it accurate. So I did put it on ray tracing. I'm gonna stick with Ultra. Ray tracing Ultra. So that means everything ray tracing is on. There's no path tracing. Ray trace lighting is Ultra. Otherwise everything else is on and set to high. This looks amazing. So I have played this on the 9070 XT on 4K on a 75-inch TV, and that was really high. Like an amazing experience, but this is, I get to see like a lot closer. So this actually looks really cool. I think the 9070 XT looked better on 4K, but this is still amazing. We did see that it dropped down to like 15 at one point. It's not like maxing out the CPU or the GPU in this game, whereas it did with the, what game were we just in? Borderlands 4, yeah, that maxed out everything. So pretty high quality here. I don't wanna go to this guy because he's just gonna yell at me and say a bunch of cuss words. So we're just gonna look around a little bit more. And then we're gonna swap over to the 9600X. I am just gonna do the same exact area on the 9600X on this one. So we won't get a whole lot of Cyberpunk, but it does kind of show us, because this is pretty much where a lot of people do like I think this is where the static benchmark is. That feels like a good spot. Let's go ahead and swap over to the 9600X now and kind of see how that performs, if it really allows I think in some areas we're potentially getting bottlenecked, especially because this is on a B450, and the B450 only has PCIe 3, which I don't think it matters that much, but it can improve a percentage, like a small percentage. So I'll stop rambling. Let's go ahead and swap over. Completely forgot I was gonna do the chart as well at the end. So here we go. You guys can see the ledger down here. Blue is average, green is max, 1% low for red. So on Black Myth Wukong, we saw it apparent that there were 1% low at 2.9. Everything else, it seemed like it was relatively stable with where it was like max and average, other than Cyberpunk, where we did have like a massive spike at one point. But we didn't see a whole lot of 1% lows, and I have to imagine that the 9600X setup we'll probably see even higher 1% lows, like the numbers will be a lot higher and it'll be a lot more consistent. And I am really curious to see if when we go from AM4 to AM5, if we're gonna see a massive increase in the FPS, and if we're potentially bottlenecking, which I assume we might be a little bit, but potentially bottlenecking some of this 3080. So let's go ahead and finally swap over to the 9600X. So I accidentally did Black Myth Wukong instead of Arc Raiders, so I've kind of seen a little bit of this 3080 in the 9600X already. I'll put it in order for you guys to try and keep the video parallel or consistent. I did notice something, and perhaps we're gonna see it in this game as well. So no frame gen, no FSR, or Let's go to DLSS, leave it on high. Oh, did we never turn this up to high? You guys, did I leave that on low? Did I just turn ray tracing on high and leave that on low? What is wrong with me? So very first impressions are, holy cow, this is a massive difference. I should probably start recording here. Holy cow, this is a massive difference in look and quality, and this test might be very skewed because I am a nincompoop, but oh my gosh, this looks amazing. Wow. You guys, I did do that, didn't I? I tested the 3600 on ray tracing high and on low. So I think this test is going to be skewed, probably messed up the arc raters. Whoops. So you're gonna watch this next part with Black Myth Wukong and you'll see some of it there, but I am potentially concerned because we're on a 9600X. I don't remember what the wattage is supposed to be on this, but this is only a 750 watt power supply. So I'm wondering if I'm pulling so many watts from the GPU because it's basically getting maxed out, if potentially I'm close to limiting the amount of like actual power that I have available in it. Because I've had this problem before where the 9600X will cause like, or have some micro stutters, and some of the weaker CPUs paired with like the 3080 or something did not. Probably enough for arc raters. It'll give us a good idea. Like I said, the test results will probably be slightly skewed, but I'm guessing we're still probably gonna be higher just because we're on this 9600X. All right, you guys, so now we have the 9600X with our 3080. We're in Black Myth Wukong. Let me go ahead and show you guys the settings really quickly. So still on the 75 super resolution. We've got ray tracing on medium, everything on high. Go ahead and start the setting or the test here. First impression is, wow, the game looks amazing. I think, weren't we getting higher FPS before? Am I pulling too much wattage here? Interesting. I'm getting 100% utilization out of the GPU right now. So I didn't have the temperature or the wattage on the other one, but I have it on here. Perhaps it's running higher? I do think it looks better on this, I believe. Yeah, we're getting some micro stutters here. The game, I think the game quality does look better for sure. I think I've had this problem before with this where I've had some stutters on this specific CPU. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious to see if it's just Black Myth Wukong. Let's go ahead and swap over to, I think we did Crimson Desert second, and then we went to Borderlands 4. So let's go ahead and swap over to Crimson Desert, see if it's kind of the same experience. I'm just overdrawing on the power here, which is possible, but I'm really curious of that. So let's go ahead and swap over. All right, now we have Crimson Desert loaded up. Let me go ahead and get the test started here. We're gonna make sure that we're still on high graphics. Okay, everything is still on high. 1440p, no VSync, all that kind of stuff. So again, we're still just completely maxing out the GPU here, and we're only getting 30%. Interesting. First impressions, it does look really good. I think we are getting a lot more FPS on this game than we were on the 3600. I can't quite tell if the graphics look superior. I'm thinking they do, but it's also a different time of the day, and that has a really big impact on this particular game. Maybe it looks better. I think that guy looks, this particular guy looks clearer here. But man, this card uses so much power. I should have turned on the power watt usage earlier, but we are 100% all the time on this card, and it is running like a little hot. I mean, 73 degrees isn't like dying, but it's running pretty warm. So responsiveness, really, really good. It looks really, really solid. It's very hard for me to tell if this is a higher quality, sorry guys, if this is a higher quality than it was on the 3600. I think it is. We'll have to see the charts though, because that's where I'm gonna know like if the FPS were that much better. I think, weren't we at like 55 FPS on there? I think that's what we were at. Still think that's cool. I don't know if it's supposed to do that, how it like comes up at his feet, but we'll see based on the chart if there was a massive difference between going from that older CPU to this CPU. But let's go ahead and go to Borderlands 4. That's where I am expecting like the most difference because we got some really bad lows on the 3600. So, all right, so we have Borderlands 4 on our 9600X and 3080. Let's go ahead and verify that we're on the same settings. So full screen, 1440p, high, everything else is set to high or medium. So first impressions, oh, I gotta make sure I actually benchmark it this time. I recorded this once, messed up, now I have to actually benchmark it. First impressions are, I believe we were getting like 50-ish FPS when I did it on the 3600, and we were 100% seeing like a bottleneck with our CPU. Wow, we're getting quite a bit out of it here too, 70%. The one thing I will say is we are almost always at 100% utilization on the GPU. I don't know if that's a good thing to be always at 100, but this does feel really, really, oh, there it is. Okay, that's the one I want. This does feel really, really, really good. Like very playable. And we're getting what, 68? Yeah, this isn't just like good, this is really good and it looks amazing. Now you guys might think like 60 FPS, that's not a lot of it. It is. For this game, usually 50, to me 50 is about a playable rate. Anything less than 50 and you're gonna start having some problems. But 50, especially on these types of graphics, like you could potentially get some more out of it, but 70 here, 60, 70 is very playable. So this feels like a good spot. Let's go ahead and finish up with Cyberpunk. After that, I'll pull up the chart so we can compare the two, see how the 3080 runs. All right, guys, our final game on the 9600X and 3080. We are back in Cyberpunk here. We're back to Ray Tracing Ultra. Ray Tracing is on, Path Tracing is off. Everything is high or Ultra. Let me go ahead and start the test here. Turn this down a little bit. Immediate, just feeling, again, I'm just always so impressed by the graphics in Cyberpunk. It just looks so amazing. We did the RX 580 video yesterday, and even then, like, it just looked so good. So very impressive. You know, a lot is kind of going on here. That's so cool that you can see that. And it just looks of great quality in my opinion. So I think we are getting potentially a little higher FPS. Remember we had the anomaly with the 3600 where it was like 270 on a high, but I don't think we're gonna see that again. I don't know why we saw that. I was looking up the pricing to verify this, and I'll talk about it a little further. I think the RTX 3080, this model I think goes for a little more just because it's like special or whatever, but in general I think they go for about 350 to 400, which is pretty accurate. I actually paid $250 for this one, but there's like some slight damage cosmetically. But I was trying to think of cards that are like in that same price range, potentially that price range and like relative to the performance. So like new, you'd be looking at like maybe a 9060 XT 16 gigabyte, which has more VRAM, but I think it does perform worse on this. I need to get my hands on one again eventually and maybe compare these two, but those are also like $100 more. $50 to $100 more than one of these at this point. However, this card does pull so much power. So that's maybe where we're starting to see like modern cards are just kind of winning out. Like they offer the same level of performance as some of these older cards while being much more power efficient. That feels good. I'm gonna go ahead and call it here and get you guys the chart. We can kind of look at it for a minute and then I'll close up the video. Okay, well, here is the disaster and of a mess that this chart has become, but here it is. So in arc raters, everything that is blue is going to be the 3600. Everything is orange is going to be the 9600X. So we were on average, this is the average column here, supremely ahead on the 9600X. On the max, way far and above, and the 1% low, much higher. So in arc raters, the CPU absolutely impacted us on Black Myth Wukong. Very weird. Like I said, we got some stutters in there. We actually had a lower, that's very odd. We had a significantly lower average on the 9600X. This could be user error too, you guys. But we had a significantly higher max and a lower low on, so the 9600X lost to the 3600 there. Don't know if that's Black Myth Wukong, if that's me, if there's some power problems there. Crimson Desert, almost a 20 FPS jump on the average, a 10 FPS jump on the max, and almost double on the 1% low. So both that and arc raters absolutely saw a bonus from the CPU. Borderlands 4, a 10 FPS jump, and when you're only at that much, that's a lot on the average. For the max, we went up 20, and the low, we almost doubled again. So CPU definitely helped on Borderlands. Cyberpunk, wow, the average was actually higher on the 3600 than it was there. Like I said, this was probably an anomaly. The 1% low, though, was absolutely better on the 9600X. So I think this video did potentially a couple things. One, it showed that the 3080 here is still a very relevant card and performed great. Outside of Black Myth Wukong, where I don't know if it's just the game is that demanding, if I have problems with power supply issues, who knows what. I'm a human and make a lot of mistakes, so this is not a perfect example here. But outside of that, everything felt really smooth. If we had needed to throw down this, any kind of frame gen or even lower the settings, we could have absolutely done that and gotten more FPS, but everything was very playable. It was high quality. What I am curious about though is, this is a $350 to $400 card and it requires a lot of power. I mean, I didn't have the wattage on for the first one, but it was getting up to like 370 plus at times on the 9600X. So you definitely want it paired with a high power supply. And you also have to be kind of concerned with things used that much that over time it could cause, degradation of some kind. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just some guy on the internet, but it is kind of reassuring to see that the 3600 still pretty much blow for blow hung with the 9600X. And you can find those for like $75 right now. Not to mention DDR5 RAM is like twice or 3 times as expensive as DDR4 RAM. So yeah, you can definitely upgrade to the 3080, or if you have the 3080, you can handle all of these games. And if you have issues with them, then obviously I did something wrong, or you just have a different setup. But the 3080 is a very capable, very adequate card for the best and most demanding. Best is subjective, but the most demanding games that are out there right now. So if you're in the market, looking to get one or you've got one, feel free to get these games and you should have a pretty good experience. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I promise soon, Amazon is driving me crazy. I should have the CPU cooler in for the newsletter giveaway PC. If you don't know, I have a newsletter where I update you guys on the upcoming content for this channel. And I have a free version on there and I have a paid version. The free version and the paid version are exactly the same thing as far as, what kind of access you get to the newsletter. But the paid version actually enters you in for a chance to win a gaming PC June 15th. That PC is actually right behind the camera right now. And it would have had a video on it already, but Amazon has given me like a 4-day delay. I ordered it Monday. Today is Wednesday or Thursday. Today is Wednesday. I don't know what today is. I think it's Wednesday. And it's not here today. It was supposed to be here yesterday, and it probably won't be here tomorrow, and maybe it'll be here Friday. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this. If you are interested in other content, I have tons of stuff on here. Benchmarking, all kinds of games. I have a full series on this, as I mentioned earlier. And as you guys go, consider checking out some of these other videos.